Okay, Julia.
Hi.
Hey.
What's up?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Thomas.
Welcome to the Bro Nouveau podcast.
I'm really glad to be here. Thank you again for inviting me.
Oh yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
coming on.
I know. I'm excited for today.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. We were just talking about how
hmm
conversation is a great way to learn,
Yes.
and I
hmm
agree completely. It's something I love reading, but I always the people have heard me say this a million times on here, but I think the fastest way to learn is by talking to people.
Right. Yeah. And knowing how to do that well and to get like good conversation and deep conversation and stuff. So
Yeah. Have you always been a conversationalist?
Um, I think so. I'm like a very stereotypical extrovert.
Nice.
I'm so guilty of that sometimes. Or have you heard of like the Clifton Strengths Finder stuff?
Yes.
So my main one is woo, which is like winning others over, and it's
Oh.
about I just creating connections and like creating connections between me and others, and then also connecting other people too. And then that is like to me very value adding and I think really gratifying because then it's like, oh, it's like you're killing two birds with one stone by helping a bunch of people and making your friends become friends with each other too, right?
It's the
So
best. Doesn't always work
yeah,
out though.
it's true. It's like a skill, the skill that has to be practiced. But and then yeah, I like just like collecting and like building out, I guess, the people I know and
Yeah.
can help. So
Are you in a community house now?
a little bit actually. Uh, I've been saying for a while now, it feels like this sort of new rotating chapter of my life where I have a new recurring cast of people in my life. Because, like, my husband and I are doing long distance for the first time. So he's back in the US now, starting a degree. And so I'm back here. And I got lucky enough to be, like, I guess, implanted into this group of friends where we have a house and obviously our housemates, but then it's like a rotating set of houses actually between like
Oh.
here and La Union, which is a surf town that
Oh,
I get to go to
nice.
often. And then so it's like,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
Up
know.
north.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Have
yeah.
you been there?
We almost went there.
Oh, I'm so sad you didn't get a chance
I
to.
know it was between
Yeah.
Real and then Union,
Oh, okay,
and we went to
okay.
Real.
Okay.
Yeah,
Where's that?
it's
No.
like due east basically.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
little town. I think it has surf breaks too, but when we were there, it wasn't.
Ah, I see,
It
I see,
wasn't
I
breaking.
see.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like this, it's very much like it's been this. I don't want to say it's been described as a commune, but it has, where it's like I don't know, it's just a good community of like friends and like people that I feel like I'm learning a lot from.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's sweet. I because we were texting about like a hang this weekend,
yes.
and you said where you like showed where you were living,
Uh huh.
the spot, and it had like a proper name. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder if this is like a community house.
I guess informally that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice. Because we used to live in San Francisco,
yeah.
and that's a thing. That's a big thing there.
Yeah, where it's like friends like split a lot of like rooms
Yeah,
and houses and
it's very
stuff.
like
Yeah.
intentional.
Oh, okay,
It's very
okay.
it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it definitely is intentional, but like not like I think it's very uncommon here in the Philippines.
Oh, for
Especially
sure.
our age, and then like it's really expensive. Like people live more than parents, and so I feel really lucky to have found something like this in a place like Manila where it's
Yeah.
not that common. So yeah.
And you grew up here.
I did. I was born and raised here. But then I moved to the U.S. 2012 for college and then work. So I was living there for like 8 years or so, and then just moved back here around 2019. But like I'm Filipino and half Chinese. So actually, like the main language growing up at home was English, and then I
Mm,
studied in basically international school my whole life. So like I'm Filipino, but it's a very specific
right,
subset of what Filipina is.
for
So
sure.
yeah.
So you're is where both of your parents, like one is full Filipino, one is
Yes,
full Chinese.
exactly. My mom is Filipina, and my dad was always traveling around for work. So it was very much like grew up in a very matriarchal household
Mm,
that is already very like atypical for a Filipino household in general. So
right. Same.
yeah.
Similar.
What was it like for you?
Well, yeah, my mom and dad are both from the same town in Ohio.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Pretty.
familiar with Midwest.
Yeah,
That's where I
yeah,
went to
yeah,
school.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Toledo, Ohio,
Yeah.
and they, from the same town. But yeah, it's kind of similar. Not always, but starting in like I was like 12 or 13, my dad was traveling a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was my mom, and then my brother and sister. They moved out, and then high school was
Mm-hmm.
basically just me and my mom around the
Yeah,
house.
yeah, yeah.
But it was great because then all my buddies, we could walk from our high
Right,
school,
right, right.
so we would like almost every day walk home.
Mm.
My mom didn't know, but we were like high out of our
Yeah,
minds.
yeah.
like,
Oh my
like
god,
she's like,
love
"You
it.
boys are so
I know.
hungry." Like,
Love to see. Oh my god. Well, now we know what to do after this podcast
yeah,
at some
yeah,
point before you leave.
yeah,
We
for
should.
sure. Yeah, yeah, that'd be chill. I haven't, yeah, because there's, you hear like horror stories about like
Yeah, it's different
recreational
here.
drugs here.
It's
Yeah,
different, but
yeah.
it's okay. We're in a safe space right
Cool,
now.
cool.
Before you leave, we gotta do it.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so that's a good launching point. So you described a matriarchal household to be kind of different than the norm
Yeah.
here. What is
Yeah.
the norm here?
Well, actually, I would say Philippines is interesting because the household is run by women. Actually, maybe not in the sense that a woman is typically a breadwinner, but in my case, she was the breadwinner.
Mm.
But they make all the decisions about household, like for example, what how to spend the money, right, or how to where kids get to go to school and like daily life. I would say in most Philippine households, like the mother or the mom is like the one calling the charges on that, which is really interesting because uh the Philippines, I feel like no one questions like a woman's leadership. Like, it's like I see a lot of women leaders and whatnot, more here than probably in other places. But there still is, I guess, not this. It's not that they're not afforded the same rights as like I guess or the same kind of respect or treatment as a male leader. I guess yeah,
Yeah, that's a contradiction.
it is. It is. It is. I don't know why that is, but for sure, like Filipino women have, I think, a very heavy say, especially in like a traditional household. You know.
What is your vision for your household?
Hmm. I. This is like a larger thing that relates to, I guess. I'm like grappling right now with like my queer identity. Because I feel like I am queer, but I am in a very like cis hetero presenting relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I'm queer not just in like the sexual sense or like what I desire, but the whole idea of like questioning tradition and questioning
Oh, cool.
the conformity of traditions or for just tradition's sake. So I yeah I like the idea of like creating or like questioning and re rethinking through like the traditional conventions of what a household should be, because in a relationship in a household, I feel like it was this idea of like the nuclear household, right? It's a very new convention that was built like back when our lifespan was 30 years, and so you obviously wanted to marry someone for life, right? Or it makes sense. Or like it was a very
Yeah.
much like a economic like thing
Necessity.
yeah, necessity to
Yeah.
like combine a household so we could
Yeah,
survive more,
combined
right?
families.
Yeah, and so like I think thinking outside of the traditional conventions or expectations of what it means to expect everything from one person or one nuclear household, right? And building that out more to be a larger like community based thing, um is at least what I envision for my household. But like not to say that like oh, everyone should just do whatever and
Just
or not
bang
yeah,
everybody.
exactly. Not I'm not saying that. I mean, but you could do that and I wouldn't judge you. But it's more like you know being open with the idea of questioning what
For
it
sure.
what the idea of a traditional marriage is, or understanding that we have that power to be the narrators of our of what our relationship is or what our lives are. And so understanding that at least questioning or creating that universe you have with every relationship that you have, it doesn't
Totally.
have to just be like so black and white. There can be so much more. So
Yeah,
that's a very vague answer.
I love it.
But
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
So I have my understanding of what queer means,
Yes.
but it seems like a somewhat fluid definition, maybe personal to every person.
Yeah.
So for someone in my audience who
Mhm.
maybe their only conception is like very traditional gay culture,
Yeah,
or
you're like in the LGBTQIA plus
yeah,
alphabet.
yeah. So like, what does that mean to you?
Um, it's a bit of what I was talking, and I've had a lot of conversations with obviously friends too that identify that way, and um, it's for me it is about just like the idea of questioning convention, and also being like authentically yourself.
Yeah,
Like I think that's a big part of it is that like I love queer and gay spaces just because I feel like they're where I feel the most safe. You know, I feel the more safe to be me,
yep.
um, to be free. You know, free. So I think that I that concept of like authenticity of yourself and like really learning how to like love yourself. That's like part of the queer journey. You know, so like regardless of who, yeah, you like or who you
Right.
are sexually attracted to, like I think there's an importance in that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree on the feeling comfortable part.
Mm-hmm.
I played on a gay rugby team,
Love that.
San Francisco Fog.
Yeah. Yeah.
My fucking boys
Yeah.
over there.
Rugby is a really interesting like example
Yeah.
of like and a great like model of what you would think is traditionally very straight and male, but actually it does have a lot of like
Yeah.
queer undertones, which is fun. And
Yeah. But it's so funny, like in a traditional rugby team, you'll get
mm-hmm.
like people I've said to me like, oh, like, but it was a lot of fun in the showers on that gay
Yeah, yeah,
team, right? And I'm
yeah.
like, dude, no, they're not like fucking rapists. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, no,
Yeah.
like actually,
Yeah.
no, they're not gonna bother you. They're
Mm-hmm,
normal people.
mm-hmm.
Like, you sound like an idiot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
for
know?
sure.
Yeah, rugby is, but that's kind of more why this podcast exists. Is just like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a lot of traditional male culture has that very like there'll be like homosexual jokes, but like
Right.
don't cross that line,
Yeah,
dude,
yeah, yeah.
bro,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, like to me it's it's a prime example of why like that kind of stuff is so bad for everyone. I think especially for men, like it's almost more pitiful for like queer or for like straight men because they're so confined about like what it is and what their sexuality is, and it's like it it makes it really hard, I
Yeah,
guess,
yeah,
to
yeah.
explore outside of that.
It
And
does, it
yeah,
does,
yeah.
and even like for me, I still have moments where like the tagline or the definition of this podcast is
Mm-hmm,
healthy
mm-hmm.
communication for men, so they
Yes.
can start their journey of self work.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
even I still have that resistance sometimes. I'm like, oh, what is someone going to think when they see my
Right, right.
podcast?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Even though
yeah.
I like will have stamped my name, I
Yes.
created a brand about it
Right.
because I feel so strongly about it, but I
Mm.
still have that resistance. And I think it's from that conditioning
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
what a man is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. Like the way I would describe my experience is very specific, but it was like in the San Francisco,
Right,
like gay rugby
right,
scene,
right.
very niche, but it's just like a
Mm-hmm.
celebration. It's like
It is. That's what it is. Also, yeah,
everybody who's in that
yeah.
space has come through the other side of this experience of being told all these horrible things.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like for many of my friends, taking on those beliefs at some
Yeah,
point, moving through them, and then coming out the other side alive and thriving.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and they're
yeah.
just fucking stoked to be here,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't care about how other people perceive them,
Mm-hmm,
which is
mm-hmm.
so beautiful.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why. Yeah, I think queer and gay people just have they're like the most fun because it's like
Yeah,
they've already
yeah.
got, like it comes from a place of definitely a lot of like pain, a lot of hardship they have
Yeah.
to go through. But it's sort of like despite all of that, they're still like celebrating who they are, celebrating themselves and their loved ones,
Yep.
for accepting them for who they are. And like I think I think it's a very important lesson in like vulnerability, which I think is another thing that men struggle with a lot. It's like um you just have to know that you have to create that sort of space that where you feel vulnerable enough to be able to like really be who you are. And it's sad that the world is set up that way, that it's not. It's really hard to like be your true self. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big reason why we're also all here, is to try to like find what that is for every individual.
Totally. So how is that for you, you know, in like a hetero presenting relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Is it day by day it's different, or
I'm definitely still navigating it,
Yeah.
you know, because it's something that, yeah, for a long time, you know, kind of like my first love was a woman, basically, and then after that, it was kind of like I had been in sort of these um, straight presenting relationships for a long time. Also, like mainly with like white men too. So for me, that was very much like looking back. I'm like, wow, you know, there's so many experiences I never got to have because I grew up with this perception of what
Mm.
beauty was, and it was a very Western leaning perception. So, um, and then it almost felt like, oh, am I really a part of this community if I've only just been dating men for a long
Right.
time and
Right.
I'm
Right.
interested in them, and like, um, and so it's still like something I'm struggling with. It's like I said, it's only now have I felt like, okay, this is why I like I'm trying to like really think expand like outside of like my normal convention, because the current one that's imposed on me, like it's not enough, or I feel like I'm more
It's not
basically.
working.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
not that it's not working, that I feel like it could be more. Like you know,
Mm.
it's not. I'm happy. I'm super happy in my like long term relationship, and I feel so blessed to have like found the partner that I want to like, you know, grow gray and old with. But then
Ah,
there's, you know,
yeah.
yeah, and so
Same.
still,
Yeah.
right. It's
Yeah.
a miracle actually. You know, if you think
Yeah.
about how hard it is to
Yes.
find that person, like I think about it so often lately, and how I'm just like really blessed in that front. But you know, it's like this what I said about, you know, loving making connections or loving getting deep with people. It's like, you know, there's you can't just get that from one person for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think how that's showing up for me is kind of
Yeah.
in like lifestyle design,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
guess.
Tell me how you've designed your lifestyle.
Yeah, because I mean, because I also have a very. There was a point in high school where I really identified with being a nonconformist. That was
Mm-hmm,
very
mm-hmm.
important to me,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and it rung true, I think. And in some ways, I guess my point of reference is just my friends and my family
Mm-hmm.
in Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
which is where my most of my friends and family are
Mm.
from home or growing up. And I think a few of us have kind of branched out, but a lot of my friends are in Philly. They're
Mm-hmm.
most likely going to get married
Yeah.
there, you know, buy a house there, start a family there.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And then, you know, Kendall and I are just doing a kind of different thing where we're living in California,
Right.
we're here now,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're going
Yeah.
to keep traveling.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, there's so many more places I want to see and experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also, I've been thinking about with virtual life, you know, online, remote
Yeah.
businesses and working, you can really live anywhere.
Anywhere. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And what I like is like outdoor access to
Mm-hmm.
fresh air, you know, water to swim in,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, trail running, mountain biking, playing rugby. That stuff is really, especially being here,
Right. Yeah,
has
yeah, yeah.
refocused my what I
What you
want.
need. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I get that. I get that.
you know,
Yeah,
and
for
it's like if that doesn't align with like where all my friends and family are, and I know it's gonna make me happy, and it's not that, then it's okay if it's
yeah.
not that.
No, I agree with you in thinking, you know, there's like this very the whole nonconformist thing, the convention is like, you know, you get married, buy a house, and then settle down or
Yeah,
choo choo. And it's like, you know, that's the persisting model of what success looks like. But it doesn't have to be. You know, we're allowed to define what works for our lifestyle. And it's like it definitely comes from a place of privilege, right? Like we're so lucky enough to
yeah,
be like creating the life we want for ourselves. Like some people, they don't have that choice, right? They feel, you know, they're stuck financially or whatever. um but yeah, it's, I guess, with the opportunities afforded to us, it doesn't just have to be like, you know, picket fence type of, you know, future.
existence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think that's where there's a lot of excitement and possibilities. Like, what is that going to look like? And you know, I think it's just we're just in the beginning of it. You know, like I feel like or are you like you're like in your 30, like under 30 or something?
yeah,
Yeah,
late 20s.
late 20s,
Yeah, yeah,
same. And so it's like, you know, we're at the cusp of that, and I think even the younger generations are going to want to totally dismantle that like convention as well of
yeah,
what success looks like, you know?
yeah.
Like a friend was telling me that we're at the point now where, people don't want to work for big companies. People don't want to like, you know, have a job for 40 years until they retire, right? They're looking for like something new, like every years, every 2 years. So it's like people are gonna want to work more for themselves and do whatever they want. So it's interesting to see how it's gonna like play out in the larger like scheme of what it means to be like a working professional in like the next decade or so, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think that we're gonna grapple with that other generations have never dealt with is
Mm-hmm.
more downstream effects of climate change.
Oh yes. Oh my god. I'm so glad you were able to bring it there.
Yeah. Also, I think the younger generation could change things if they
Yes.
get off their fucking phones.
Yeah, yeah.
Big if.
I know. Yeah. That's a whole different
That's all.
thing.
I
Yeah,
just want to throw
yeah.
that in there.
I know.
I'm sketched by other phones. I'm sketched.
No, I think the two like biggest problems we face at the moment as a collective species is one, climate change, and two, like misinformation
Yeah.
and like how the how technology is like shaping so much of our worlds and stuff. So it's definitely some scary stuff we've got in store for us.
Yeah.
In the next decade, few
Yeah.
years. So.
And I don't even know. Like, I don't think we'll. This is just a total guess. I'm not qualified.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see like torrential floods or like our world on fire in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Maybe like our grandkids' lifetime. But we're definitely going to deal with some.
You don't think you're seeing it right now, actually? Like,
Yeah.
think about now that, especially your experience here in the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
That's always how climate change is. It affects the places that, hits the places the hardest that deal the least of it, and like, this is the global south. Like, we had a major typhoon hit just like last week, Typhoon Paeng, and that killed like over 100 plus people, and so I don't know. It's part of that whole misinformation thing where we're so overly desensitized to all this like trauma and like terrible things that are happening in the earth. But it's here. It's just like in places that you don't usually see, right?
Yeah.
Um,
For sure. I mean, I was reading or watching a thing about oyster reef rehabilitation in Louisiana and how like a ton of the Louisiana coastline has been degraded already in the last like 100 years.
Yeah.
So you have a strong interest in climate change.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that I think is also just coming into the forefront now, right? Like, I can't say I have any personal experience being like a climate change, activist or a climate change like change maker, right? Trying to do anything, but it's sort of part of this, I guess, community that I've also been surrounding myself with that makes me realize, oh, this is like a huge problem. We need to like put all of like our, collective humanity to try to like process that or prepare, for what's to come in with climate change.
I think you're right. I mean, I think I kind of at the same time, without examining it, have a kind of like defeatist and then also procrastination attitude. Like, oh, it'll next generation, or like, oh, it's fucked, it's too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one thing that I've been thinking about and is like food access and learning. How, I want to know how to grow my own nutrient rich food. And like have some land and regenerate the topsoil and like biodynamic farming and have. I think that's a cool. They talk about, or I guess I always kind of like you. I would imagine as an outgoing person, I always feel like my strongest sphere of influence is in the immediate personal space.
Yeah,
like,
where your location, geography, it shapes you. It makes a big difference.
Totally. So I think we're thinking about like how I could be carbon neutral, I guess, or leave the earth better than I found it in some ways. It'd be having a piece of land, over the long term, kind of developing it, regenerating it, like, rather than just buying from factory farmed,
right,
like food, like meat and produce the rest of my life.
Yeah, actually, like knowing like where your food comes from,
and
it's really sad knowing that it's almost like a dying practice, right? Like, no, like, and I think especially here in the Philippines, we, land is life, like, and everyone, like, especially, if you're like, I don't know if like a local is the right way to say it, or but if you're actually like really from the Philippines, like not in the way I'm from the Philippines, right?
Mm,
From the provinces, from outside of the city,
right,
basically,
right.
you have this deep connection with land because you grew up with it, know it, and now I hear a lot of stories of like people moving to the city, and they can't do that anymore because there's better opportunities, right? And now we have not enough farmers, but we're importing way too much food and everything.
Mm,
um but yeah, and so it's like important for us, I think, to like know that, because it's like what's super important, and as you said, defines so much of who we are.
yeah.
And so my move back here has been a lot of like rediscovering like land, rediscovering my surroundings and what it means to be like in the Philippines as a Filipino, right? um and seeing the effects of climate change firsthand. It's like, you know this what are we, if not helping the collective humanity? It's like, I think that a lot. Like, there was a big typhoon, I forgot the name already, that hit in my home province of like Rojas City. And so I was there, like, when you see it in person, it's like a totally different thing, like floods
Right.
um uh and like how it's affecting people and displacement. And it's like, wow, what am I doing? Well, this is going on in the world. I think that sometimes, right? And yet I'm guilty of like still doing my like normal day job, right, while this is all happening.
Yeah.
um I want to like give a shout out to some of my friends that are based in La Union. That's like this arts for ecology organization called Emerging Islands.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I'm super inspired by them and their vision. And basically, um, their whole thing is creating conversations, encounters, or um, fostering artist residencies to basically create art for ecology, and like tell what it means to like have island stories, or um, be in an archipelago, right? And yeah, and so what they're doing is really cool. Like, basically, there was a while where they like invited artists to come to La Union, and then they create art in collaboration with like the local communities, and like
Sick.
actually hearing their perspectives and integrating that into the art. And so um like a lot of actually what I this drive to like care about climate change has been like being exposed and hanging out with them, and like now being just more in nature lately, because as person that grew up in a city, it wasn't like a thing I was around a lot.
Yeah.
And especially in the Philippines and in my upbringing, it was like, oh, nature's dangerous, don't go
Right,
outside,
right,
you'll
right.
get dark.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yo, yeah,
yeah.
that's a big
That's the
thing
thing,
here.
the colorism.
The
Yeah. Oh
whitening
yeah.
creams,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah. What is? How would you describe that to someone who's never been here?
Okay, so yeah, basically the perception of beauty in the Philippines is very like Western inspired, right? Because of the world, cultural, colonial influence. And so it's a very normal thing to feel like, oh, white is beautiful, and if you're dark, you're dirty. Like, that's kind of the perception. Um, and like, so there's a lot of like whitening products, or like for your soap and everything, and you'll have a lot of people that say, oh, I don't want to stay outside in the sun for too much, or I'll get too dark. That's sort of
Mm,
how it is. Um, and yeah, so being back home has sort of been like me just flipping that script entirely, of being like, I love the sun, I love the beach. It's like when I'm in
yeah,
Island, I feel like most myself. Like, it
yeah,
feels so soul giving and life
yeah,
giving.
yeah,
And just learning how to like love my like beautiful brown skin.
yeah, yeah.
So it's been a lot of like, yeah, reclaiming that and realizing that you know this is my home, this is what makes me who I am, and I'm embracing it. Now I need to like save it somehow. So
I think that example is a great example for, like, for me, when I'm talking to white people who
mm-hmm.
don't believe in or like understand,
mm.
like, I guess, passive white supremacy or like
Mm, mm-hmm,
downstream influences, like
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
great
yeah,
example. It's like,
yeah.
if this idea has gone across the world
Yep.
and now a smart young generation
Yeah.
of people have to deal with this weird
Exactly.
fucking thing
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that should never have been present at all,
Yeah.
you know?
No, it's super interesting. Like if you are here and you see all the ads, it's basically like white people or fair skinned people. Like the Filipino term is like mestizo,
Hmm.
which is like I guess Spanish or something.
And
Maybe.
Chinese
Yeah,
mix, right?
Chinese mix. So just as
Yeah,
long as you're like fair skinned,
right,
you could, theoretically like get farther in the world because you're seen as more beautiful
right.
or something. Yeah. So and like also if you look at like celebrity culture, right? It's very much like, oh yeah, fair skinned people, right? And only now it's like the narrative of like, but that's not all, nobody looks like that, right? Or even the influence from like Korea, like K-pop, like they're all still super fair skinned,
Yeah,
right?
true.
Um, and yeah, so it's very very interesting to see that like play out.
Yeah, I think sometimes the opposite thing happens in the US where
Mm.
like lighter skinned celebrities will like want to be
Yeah.
adjacent to blackness
Right,
because that's
exactly.
cool.
It's super cool.
Yeah,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
it's so fuck. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
Like I've seen that with I can't believe I'm saying this right now. Like the Kardashians have been
Yep,
like
yep. Oh
accused of
yeah.
that.
Oh for
I'm
sure. Like
outing. I'm outing myself right now.
no, I mean that's a prime example of it though, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. That's
And
Oh yeah,
I
good.
mean it's not like we're also not we're also guilty of that too here in the Philippines, right? And it's like that
Mm.
culture of, you know, borrowing from other cultures or like being adjacent to these identities that, seem cool, are cool, but then, you don't pay homage to them enough or something, right?
Yeah,
Like we're very guilty of that here too.
yeah. It's so interesting too because something I think about is like big picture balance too. Like obviously respecting different cultures is really important and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
understanding each identity. If you, I
right,
mean, this is also a conversation most people probably don't care about as far as
right,
like how
yeah,
does my identity intersect with
right,
people
right.
around me and understand, that's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
very
yeah.
like I guess niche
It
conversation.
is. It is. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like so I think about this stuff and then I think about zoomed out like we're in the solar system,
Right?
in the Milky Way, in the fucking
Yeah.
expanding
I
universe,
know.
and it's
Yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
my god, like,
Like none of it matters,
yeah,
but
it's like
everything matters.
everything matters, none of it matters.
Yeah,
So how
yeah.
do like, I think that's the whole question we were talking about earlier about thinking about the life we want
Yeah.
and with defining values.
Mhm.
Like, okay, we
Mhm.
have this limited amount of time alive. What do we care about, and what are we going to do to further that cause?
Mhm. 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 Yeah, yeah. It's it's a lot about like learning how to hold two like opposing truths at the same time.
Oh yeah,
I think that's a lot about like what humanity is too. What makes us human is like we're just living contradictions of each other, of all these ideas that we're trying to like grapple with or try to figure out like where we stand in that spectrum. But yeah,
do you do any journaling or meditation?
I do a lot of journaling. I think I could be better about meditating and overall like self help. Actually, like I've never been to a therapist, so
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to like find a good one, and that's like hard
nice.
here and in general. So I think there's more I could be doing about self work too, and I think lately that's been, I guess, tied with this idea of like intentionality, and how a lot of the things that I feel like I do. I'm sorry, if this is like totally out of left field, but basically, yeah, there's a lot of things like I'm unaware about or I don't think through that much, and those are the things where like people get hurt the most, or people like,
Yep,
you don't, and so it's like relates to this larger idea of like, okay, how can I be more intentional and
yep,
thoughtful about how I move through the world and things like that's why things like journaling or meditating or therapy are important because it's like sort of that mirror that you need to put in front of yourself
oh yeah,
to like learn how to like be a more thoughtful human being, I guess, right?
totally.
But how about you? Like, do you journal or meditate? See a
Uh,
therapist?
Yeah, my most
What do you?
consistent
Yeah.
thing is exercising.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I guess you're
I'm
an athlete if you're in like a
Yeah,
rugby
so
team and stuff.
if I don't work out almost every
Yeah.
day, I like get twitchy
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
myself.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's like the first base layer. And then on
yeah.
top of that, I do a lot of kind of like the podcast is I think a reflection. People who listen will
Yeah,
have
yeah,
heard me talk
yeah.
about a lot of random stuff.
Right, right, right.
And then I also have a breathwork practice.
Oh yeah, I saw there was like a mini episode with breathwork.
Yeah. What'd you
That
think of that?
I didn't listen to it. I just
Uh,
saw that there was one. Now I have to take it since
no,
you
it's
called
cool.
me out on it.
It's
But
cool.
no, I did breathwork actually for the first time recently. Like
Oh,
I did one of those Van Hoff is that his
oh,
name? Like
nice. Yeah,
videos
yeah, yeah.
online. I was like, damn, this is hard.
It is
It's
hard.
like really
You
challenging.
get a head high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like, but I see, that's cool though.
I like it,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to get more consistent with it because
Mm-hmm.
that's I think where I'm at. Like I learned how to do it almost 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and
What inspired you to do it?
I was so I had done a yoga retreat
Uh-huh.
with this group
Yeah.
like a long time ago,
Mm.
and then I was unemployed at this point. I was home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I kind of had like some time to kill,
Mm.
and I was like, oh, I'll reconnect with my teacher because I know they
Mm.
have other retreats.
Right.
So that's where I learned the breathwork one.
Okay, that's cool.
Um, but yeah, I was in a bad spot. I was like really
Yeah.
anxious
Yeah.
and kind of like very in my head and like paranoid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I did it, and that's
Yeah.
why I like it because it calms me down,
Right.
and also it's like my teacher describes it as mental floss,
Oh, that's cool.
which
Yeah.
it feels good.
Yeah.
And it oxidates the body. There are physiological benefits.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll do my breathing. And I throw my legs up in the air,
Mm.
rotate the blood in my body,
Mm.
and I'm like fucking good.
Yeah, it's like a little like toner for your body.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah,
It's like
yeah. And then I do have this journal that Kendall gave me a long time ago. I'm still chipping away at.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, like one of those like guided journals.
Guided
or something.
journal.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been to therapy, but not that consistently.
Mm-hmm,
also,
mm-hmm.
But I did find a coach who I really like.
Oh, that's good.
And then once I'm back
That's
in
good.
more like North America time zone, I'm gonna work with him consistently.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, it's like lately I'm trying to find how do people show like self love or like self practice of like making sure that you're like personally okay so that you can like also fulfill the work you need to do, right? Or like RuPaul's famous saying is like, if you love yourself, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love anyone else?
Yep.
So it's like, and I think that's a lot harder too for like men to grapple with. Like I know I meet a lot of men that don't really know how to like love themselves.
Well, because it's very soft. It's literally soft.
It is like counter to
not literally. It's not tangible, but
sometimes
the perception is that, and it's a softening.
Yes,
it's like a being nice to yourself. What a weird idea. Yeah, like why would anyone do that? Yeah. So sorry I cut you off, but I think that's kind of like subconsciously part of it. Yeah. But the beautiful thing is that we can find friends who have our same values, and those people are out there.
Do you have like defined values for yourself?
I do have a few.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about it in a while, but I think open-minded.
Yes, that is one of my values.
Yeah, for
open.
sure.
Yeah.
For freaking sure. Consistent.
Okay.
Like
that's a good one.
I
don't have.
Oh yeah.
I need to work on. But I see you as a consistent person for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. I really do pride myself on like if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, like the discipline is important. That I don't have a lot of that.
Yeah, and then I would say empathetic.
Yeah.
Is my other one. Mm-hmm.
Like compassion.
Yeah.
Self-compassion.
Yeah. What about you?
So I can have like, what is it? I did a whole like matrix or
sick
presentation of it, but I'm like trying to remember it mentally. So one of them is like open-mindedness, like kaifeng in Chinese.
Oh.
Of like, yeah, just being open to new experiences, new perspectives, and people and whatnot. Um, and then the other one that you said, it's like compassion and self compassion. Um, are definitely really important, and part of that also is like presence. So I guess the name of that value is like karuna, which comes from like uh the book by Aldous Huxley called The Island, and it's in the book there's like this mythical bird or whatever, and their whole thing is like they say randomly karuna like every now and then, and it means like presence. So like
Oh, nice.
being like present, um, and how important that is, and like navigating, I guess, the world and your experiences. Um, and then one of them, it's another like Chinese idiom too, but I forgot how to say it. But it basically means like um, ceaseless self strengthening. So
Oh, nice.
continuously improving, but not in the sense where it's like, oh, I have to be hard work all the time and like go go go. Like ceaseless self improvement also means knowing like when to rest and knowing when to like take breaks so that you can continue that sustainable like self improvement, and then not growing for the sake of like you know endless growth like upward trend hockey stick, because I don't believe in that kind of growth. It's more
Yeah.
like being open to like constantly changing and evolving and like questioning that. And then the last one is more about like relationships, or like guanxi in Chinese too, which in some, it's interesting because like I think in some cultures it can come across as like, oh, you use relationships like for business or something, or you take advantage of relationships, but it's more like understanding the importance of relationships and connections, and how to me that's like a, and I remember taking a class that was basically saying so much of your personal success and happiness comes from like the relationships in your life and who you build. So sort of realizing that, yeah, the people you surround yourself with and grow from are really, really important. So keeping that in mind.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So those are the
A
main.
lot of
Yeah.
like tradition. I don't know. It's traditional like Chinese wisdom
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in there.
Yeah, I'm more like cuz like I'm half Chinese, and then my husband, he's like actually more of like a Sinophile than I am. He like studied abroad there
Oh,
and
cool.
like knows Mandarin better than I do.
Oh,
And so like
funny.
we sort of like talked about it together, and like,
Yeah.
when navigating a relationship, like what are our values and stuff. So that's like
Sick.
part of it. Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are those are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the relationship one is
Mm-hmm.
interesting
Yeah.
because like I think it's everyone understands networking is
Right. Yep.
huge,
Yep. Yep.
but how to do it genuinely
Yeah, exactly.
and how to not just be that person who's transparently just using people
Right.
for their benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't think either of us do that, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it
But
is
there are people that do that,
there are
right?
people who do
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's kind of that balance of like, yeah, that's part of why I do this.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, it's great for networking.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, totally. Like,
it's
and
true.
that's why, and
Yeah,
I'm glad you reached out and like do
yeah,
this. It's like we're both expanding our networks by
yeah, exactly.
being more open to like these kind of conversations or
Mm-hmm,
experiences.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I love it because also like the work I do in like professional life is also very like network based, right? So like at Endeavor, it's basically the leading global community of by and for like high impact entrepreneurs. So really the strength in the organization is how amazing the network is and all the entrepreneurs that are part of it, and being able to be plugged into the Philippine ecosystem of startups has been really cool. And I've heard Endeavor, especially here in the Philippines, being called as like the neutral glue that helps connect and grow the ecosystem, which is awesome. And like, but you have to know how to do it in like a really authentic way,
Yep.
right? Or it can come across as, and in business, like also your reputation is everything, right? So like
Yes.
how do you navigate that properly with trying to be like, genuine about it? And it's nice because it's very like we're just driven by the mission to like, grow the Philippine ecosystem and like see the country be successful, right? And so I think um it's about finding that right balance of like, you know just being genuine and authentic and present in like what you're doing, and not thinking about, oh, I'm meeting this person because I want X, but like, actually like getting to know them as humans, and like, you know
Enjoying
yeah,
the
the
experience.
experience, the
Yeah.
presence, the time, and like the
Yeah.
energy. The
Yes.
energy
Yeah.
is a big one.
You have great energy.
Thanks. So do you.
Thanks.
It's
Yeah.
been like a lot of energy back and forth,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
exciting. And it's been kind of all over the place, but in like a
Yeah.
good way, you
It's
know?
great.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's cool to because I think most people are authentic, but
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to be that way and also communicate that and be
Mm.
like I'm here with like open eyes and an open heart and an
Mm.
open mind,
Yeah.
because that's what I think human connection is all about.
Yes.
But it can be hard to. I understand why people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
If they don't want to, I get it. Like
Yeah.
it's not for everybody.
And I think yeah, it's like no, it is because it's like it's hard for people to bare their souls like that sometimes. You know, it's like
Mm,
I was talking about it with an artist actually that I had met through the Emerging Islands residency, and at the end of the whole residency, they have a thing where they have to like talk in their gallery, talk to people about their art and stuff. And for
right.
him, it's really hard because it's like the way he was saying it's like parang nakakahubad ka, or like you have to like strip naked in front of people, and that's hard. And like that's why there's like the need to like do that inner working yourself and be okay with shedding all of that before you can actually do that with other people, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Mm-hmm,
Julia.
mm-hmm.
Well, I know you are an artist yourself.
Yes, yes. I think all human beings are artists actually, and
Nice.
that to me is part of like trying to the journey of an artist is discovering that vulnerable side of yourself, and like the practice of like opening yourself up to your art to the world, you know, is I think something every human should experience. Um, but yeah, I'm a singer songwriter. I also go by Goldfiishie, which is my artist name, so you can check it out on Spotify. Only 10 p.m. by Goldfiishie.
Sick.
That's my plug.
Should we play it? Should we play it right now?
You can play it if you want. Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
close.
I
We'll
don't know
close
how
it
to.
out with
Yeah, and like
some tunes.
yeah, like I don't even think I'm that good, but it's more like the fun of like the creative process and like working with other people, um, and sharing like something that is so a part of you that feels so like you know raw and just something to yourself to the world. Like that's also part of what it is to be an artist. So
I love it. Gold with a Y.
gold fishy with double I.
Oh. And then, do you have an artist like page?
Yeah, it's all I'm goldfishy everywhere. Goldfiishie. Fiishie.
Whoa, you're verified.
I know.
Let's go. Okay, here it is.
It's not that hard. Anyways, you get verified, guys.
Well, I think this will be a good way to close it out.
Yeah, thank you
Let
again.
this run. Yeah.
Thank you again so much, Thomas.
Sick.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is sick.
Oh, thank you.
This is you? This is insane.
Isn't it? It's kind of insane.
Awesome.
I did it with a friend based in New York. His artist name is Unknown Color. And he's the best. He like produced all of that and like he's the main inspo for it. So shout out Alex. We made a great pop together.
What is? Kind of sound like Solange.
Wow. Oh my god. That's the best compliment. Probably like top 5 compliments. Not true, but
I think it's true.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, it is. Like, that's good. Yeah. And then like they email me like, hey, before you quit, like why? I was like, well, you run a podcast, just talk about how you're over France. That's their bad. That's their fault. How's their own podcast? They don't even like a guest spot. They're a business podcast. That's wrong. Like, I either like don't know that or like ruin the podcast. Yeah, right? We're going to Seville. Yeah, yeah. But we're going to start now in June. Okay, cool.